For the sake of transparency, I need to let you know that the creator of this mod is somebody that I have known in the modding community for a number of years. I communicate with him reasonably frequently, and once a year I do a charity event with him. I will be giving you my honest opinion of this product, but I thought it only fair that you understand the bias when evaluating my words. Have you ever wanted to do something with all those ships you've collected that are just currently sat in dry dock doing nothing? Have you thought to yourself, it would be awesome to have a fleet alongside me so I could cruise around in terrifying style? Well, with a paid mod called Watchtower, you can do exactly that, and much more. What more, I hear you ask? Well, for example, things that could help you out planet-side. Yes, I'm talking about orbital strikes. I'm talking cryo bombs, inferno bombs, just bombs. I'm talking about things that go boom and make your enemies disappear. And if making everything explode is not your thing for some reason, there are other uses for your ships. You can use them to drop supplies onto the surface for you, drop a defensive turret, even things like mining bots. And if you keep playing long enough, you begin to unlock some stranger and more terrifying things that will help you on your way.
Defiance will not be tolerated.
Or how about a space station to use as a home base? Starts out pretty basic at first, you know, a couple of quest givers, a bar, but over time it expands, becomes a decent place to stay, has traders, and eventually is like a bustling hub of activity. And the best thing about this space station? All of those ships you've got that you've manned with various companions and crew members, they will all dock with you and they will all hang out at the bar. I absolutely love that feature. Oh, and I almost forgot, you can now salvage ships that you've captured. Once you've boarded a disabled enemy vessel and dealt with the crew, you can now mark it for retrieval, and someone from the space station will come and pick it up, take it away, strip it down and sell it. You'll get a tidy profit, plus if it's a Watchtower ship, you will now have access to any HABs that it had. These are Watchtower themed HABs, and you'll be able to incorporate them into your ships. But don't think you'll be getting all of this without having to put some work in, because to tie all this off, there is a completely new quest line, and indeed a new faction. Not a faction you can join. In fact, it's a faction that really doesn't have your best interests at heart. Now, I don't want to spoil anything about the story or the faction you're going to meet, but what I will say is if you're a fan of an old TV series called Highlander, you are going to recognize this story immediately. And I have to say, this story fits into the Starfield universe perfectly. It really does make a lot of sense. Now, the main quest itself, if you strip it of all the side tasks where you have to go off and get equipment with which to help build your fleet, it's probably 5 to 6 hours long. It's professionally voice acted. It's a lot of fun. It has quite a lot of lore, and I thoroughly enjoyed playing through it. There is a new companion that you can take on adventures with you, assign as part of your crew, and he is one of the main quest givers in the quest line itself. He's really well done, loved the dialogue, the voice actor did a superb job, and I get the feeling there's even more to this character that I've yet to discover, even though I've finished the quest line. Because, and I don't want to spoil things too much, I get the feeling an NG Plus run with this character will be noticeably different. So I'm looking forward to giving that a try sometime in the future. The only real negative I found when it comes to the quest, the story, was there was a fairly major bug towards the end when I was trying to dock with a space station and it just wouldn't let me. I tried a couple of times, could not get it to work, searched online to see if other people were having the problem, and they were, and the solution was quit the game, load your save, try again, and that worked perfectly. I'm sure the developers will fix that bug fairly quickly, I'm guessing, because it does seem pretty important, but I thought I needed to mention it. The mechanics behind forming a fleet are relatively straightforward, and the mod does a good job explaining most of them to you. However, when it comes to actually the little details, going into the ship, assigning crew, assigning a pilot, deciding whether to be defensive or offensive, that kind of thing, the interface is a little slow and clumsy because you are using a computer interface, and I'd say that my biggest complaint there was when I'd finished setting up one ship and I pressed back, it would always send me out of the terminal rather than back up to the main menu where I could do the next ship. It would be nice to see that streamlined a little, perhaps even have some options to apply to all ships. Set all ships to defensive, all ships to stay far away, close, etc. Little things like that to make the experience a little more pleasant and, above all, faster. Oh, and I did get one case of mutiny where one of the crew members decided he wanted to be the pilot instead of the person I had assigned. That was Raphael, who decided that Amelia Earhart should not be the pilot and sat himself down and took over. It was a minor thing. It did not change anything about the game whatsoever. It didn't affect anything. I did think it was a little amusing. Now, how having a fleet affects space combat is definitely worth noting, because fairly obviously, space battles become a lot easier. Even one ship following you can pretty much double your firepower. You will notice it straight away. Once you've got 3 or 4 ships, you will be flying into systems, you'll get attacked by spacers, and you'll pretty much annihilate them with ease. And once you get to the max fleet size, which I believe is 9 ships, including your own, you will grab jump into a system, the Crimson Fleet will go, haha, you will, and then they're all dead. Because your guys will mangle them, especially if you've upgraded your ships to the absolute max. Oh, that is one important thing. You now have something to spend all of that money on, and in fact, I started this mod with 1.5 million credits, and I already had 2 fully upgraded ships that didn't need any work. But to get the full fleet, I had to do quite a few money runs just to get them all completely and utterly upgraded. But now I've got a fleet that will mangle most things. However, this mod also adds a lot more tough space battles. So whilst you will now be flying around dominating some of the battles you're used to, there are now some battles where you'll jump in, you'll look at the fleet, and you'll run away, even if you've got 2 or 3 ships yourself. You just look at it and think, oh no, I have got to get out of here. I need the full 9 ship armada for this one. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you can dock with your own ships in space. So if you want to talk to a companion you've assigned to one of your other ships, you can dock with it, board that ship, and go and chat with them. You can leave things in the storage containers there, etc. That side of things is brilliant. I'm not sure how useful it would be, because honestly, if you want to talk to someone, it's probably easier just to fly to the space station, dock there, and you will have access to all of the companions and crew members you've assigned to all of your ships. This also, by the way, a bit of a tangent here, means you've now got an incentive to actually hire all of those specialists you see in bars, because you are going to need a lot of them to fill your ships up. I will say, again, this is another area where I feel the interface by which you assign crew members could be streamlined, made a little easier to read, because sometimes if you've got 2 particle specialists, particle beam specialists, it's difficult to tell which one's assigned to a ship and which one is not. Hopefully we'll see a few improvements there. And finally, when it comes to gameplay, the ground game, now assisted by, orbital support through these things called sky drops, that will change certain missions. It will probably make some other stuff you've done before a lot easier, because of course you can bombard entire areas. There are now really tough encounters. Some of the stuff you're going to be doing for this mod, they really will be throwing a lot of very, very tough enemies at you. Even if you are really powerful, it's going to be a challenge. You're probably going to want to use some of the Orbital Strikes, especially on the large mechs. They're mildly terrifying. But I have to say, some of the drops just seem to be more for coolness sake than anything. The supply drop didn't really give me anything I felt like I needed. The turret, I mean, it does defend you a little bit, maybe early on if your character's not that strong, but in actual fact, I suspect just hitting them with a missile from space is probably the better idea. Although, because you mark them with these flares, that can sometimes be a little trickier than it sounds. You will have to get yourself in harm's way to mark the target, which does balance it quite a lot, which is probably a good thing, but sometimes you find yourself thinking, I wish I could just hide in this bunker here and radio message the coordinates, but that would almost certainly make things way too easy. So we now come to the part where I answer the two most important questions. 1, did I enjoy playing this creation? And 2, is it good value for money? The first question is easy to answer. Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed playing through the main quest. I'm enjoying the gameplay changes. It was an overall positive experience with 1 or 2 minor little issues that hopefully they'll clean up, but overall just a thoroughly enjoyable experience. The second question is a little harder to answer, although it's still a resounding yes. I feel like this is definitely worth the money. It's just that when I try to compare it to other things, there's not a lot I can do a like-for-like comparison with. I could start with Shattered Space, which is the official DLC from Bethesda. That does have more quest content, 15 to 20 hours, but honestly, it's not content that I found as engaging as Watchtower. Plus, you also have to remember that Watchtower is half the price and comes with a ton of gameplay elements. I would even say if you halved the price of Shattered Space, so both were $10, and I could only buy one, I'd buy Watchtower without any hesitation. It's probably a better comparison to compare it to something like Automatron, which is a DLC for Fallout 4. Same price at the moment, $10. It has a medium-sized quest, about 3 to 4 hours, and it has some gameplay elements, some new stuff. It's just the gameplay elements aren't as impactful, and, you know, once you've made a couple of cool robots and assigned them as settlers or even a companion, you're kind of done with it, and it doesn't really change much. And the quest itself, I did enjoy. I just didn't enjoy it as much as Watchtower. So again, I feel like Watchtower is very good value for money there. Of course, I could compare it to other Starfield creations, but I've not tried any other except the Trackers Alliance Vulture Quest. It's actually official DLC from Bethesda themselves, but that is not a good thing because my opinion regarding that particular creation is very, very negative. It's $7, so almost as much as Watchtower. It's got one short, very forgettable quest, and you end up with a rifle. Now, some people are going to argue back and say, oh, but it also has a hat and a coat. But to my mind, that's an even more damning indictment of the game when that's the best counter-argument you have. $7 for a single quest was daylight robbery. So, again, Watchtower, it's an easy win. What I will say is I felt like this was worth the $10, and I also find myself wanting more of this storyline. It did finish the particular story, the quest I was on, but it left a few things hanging, a few questions that could indicate a follow-up, and I would be there for that, and that is a good sign. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, another paid mod by Kingath Creations that is setting the bar for quality when it comes to products such as this. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what else they will create. I'm wondering if they could do something similar for the outposts to make those even remotely interesting. I think that would be a hell of a challenge, but if anyone could do it, it's probably them.